This is welcoming you to another round of exciting moments on our program, Telecom Today. I'm your host, Eunice Johnson. Telecom Today is a radio and television program of the Nigerian Communications Commission, NCC, to, amongst other things, highlight activities of the Commission in its quest to up the game of the business of regulating the telecom industry. This edition promises to be very interesting, and stories to come your way are: NCC pledges more grants for research towards boosting the telecom industry. Academia encourages innovators on profits of small money. Still on the news updates, use 622 to lodge complaints. NCC tells Telecom Consumers. Plus, NCC tasks subscribers on protection of telecom facilities. Our News of the Week segment: 774 local government areas in the country are to benefit from broadband deployment. While our consumer segment is a continuation of our discourse on what age to allow your children own a mobile phone. I must tell you, this episode is a must-watch as interesting stories have been lined up for your viewing pleasure. Please be my guest. Thanks for being there. The Interagency Committee for the Evaluation of 2018 Research Proposals from the Academia has been inaugurated. At the event, the telecom regulator pledged more funds for research towards boosting the telecom industry. In an apparent demonstration of its commitment to utilize the capacity in the academia to develop lasting solutions to challenges in the nation's telecom industry, the Nigerian Communications Commission, NCC, has pledged to commit more financial resources to the academic community to boost research. Executive Vice Chairman, NCC, Professor Umar Garbat Ambata, made the promise during the inauguration of an interagency committee for the evaluation of the 2018 research proposals from the academia at the Commission's headquarters in Abuja. The NCC boss also emphasized the high premium the Commission places on research activities, leading to the creation of Research and Development Department to further propel growth in the industry.
Let me say that we are irrevocably committed to the implementation of the selected proposals. Funding will be provided and can vouch for their sustainability into the foreseeable future. We'll give that support. Let me personally canvass that we pick proposals with definite timelines of implementation. We hope that we would be able to support more credible proposals this year than in the previous year.
Professor Dambata equally touched on the nature and quality of research proposals expected from the academia when he fielded questions from the media.
So the committee has been empowered to go a little bit higher to recommend research proposals that are qualitative, that will, in the end, add value, to the telecommunications sector of the economy, and by extension to creating that social transformation that all of us talk about.
Chairman of the Interagency Committee, Professor Mohammed Bashir Muazu, also spoke to the media after the inauguration, where he shed more light on the committee's primary mandate.
Basically, the proposals are supposed to focus on things that are supposed to either improve on what exists in the telecommunication industry or to leverage on the telecommunication industry in order to be able to things that will actually add value to the telecoms industry and address our local issues, and we'll also be considering those proposals that actually have substantial local content in them.
The Interagency Committee's inauguration became necessary following the closure of submission of entries of research proposals from the academia on the 7th of September this year. NCC's engagement with the academia, which has spanned over 3 years, is consistent with the two pillars of Professor Ambata's 8-point agenda of promoting ICT innovation and investment opportunities, as well as facilitating strategic partnerships with relevant ICT stakeholders to engender growth in the telecom industry. Still talking academic research, it remains an integral part of the academia as more funds are needed for proper execution. However, in view of paucity of funds, Professionals are encouraged to embrace what is called profits of small money to achieve set goals.
An age-long adage says a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a step. With this in mind, the new move to encourage what experts term profits of small money was amongst the subject of focus at NCC's roundtable with the academia, industry and other stakeholders held at the Bayero University, Kano State. Professor Abiodun Aibinu, a professor of mechatronics engineering and head of Department of Mechatronics Engineering, Federal University of Technology, Minna, spoke on academic research and implementation with little funds or grants given for academic research and innovation, which he says can go a long way for researchers while they await fund deserving of the research.
With little money, you can change things. With that little grant given, you can have ISI publication, patent, train people up to PhD level, all from the issue of small money. Not only that, with that little grant, you can have what is called return on investment, and you can have a lot of spin-off company. That you don't need just big money to achieve all this.
On the institution having utilized the research grant offered by NCC to the Federal University of Technology, Minna, the mechatronic engineering professor had this to say.
On the research grant awarded to Federal University of Technology about 3-4 years ago, in 2014 we were awarded one, and then in 2015 another one again. We have been able to complete the 2 research projects, submitted it to NCC around 3-4 months ago. That's exactly May 2018. From that little money, what we have achieved and generated is just too much.
After hours of brainstorming in breakout sessions, which consist of deans, head of departments of universities, lecturers, professors, and telecom stakeholders, some of the discussants gave suggestions on implementation strategy focused on funding and how far it can go in addressing some of the challenges faced during research.
Research should also be focused. That is to say that every university, every researcher should have a focused research agenda so that they will be able to time their output and how the output contributes to development in the sector.
There is a need to review the curriculum together with all stakeholders to include all the practical trainings needed by the industries. When we say all stakeholders, we mean the industries, the universities, even the students, and everybody concerned.
Regulators should harvest research areas from industries and make them available to universities.
On NCC's part, Head Research and Development Mr. Bashir Idris spoke on generating new ideas in information communication technology sustainability and why the Commission is collaborating with the academia.
The academia is challenged to study the impact of various practices and issues, particularly the Nigerian operating environment, on the operational efficiency and service delivery capability and performance by telecoms industry players, for example, to subscribers.
Also speaking on the convergence of the academia, the Vice-Chancellor Bayero University, Kano, Professor Mohamed Yauza Bello, represented by Professor Adamu Idris, appreciated the Commission for setting the pace in this area.
Actually, it's not only to the academia, it's a creation that is supposed to bring everybody together so that we know of the need of the society, and then we know what to do in order for us to also contribute. That's the academia, what the academia will do in order for them to contribute to the development of the technology, and then, of course, how we can key in to see major investors, how they can invest into the development of all the technology itself, and then how the society would eventually move the technology forward.
The event had as its theme Synergy by Academia, Industry and Regulator as accelerator for innovations, industry growth and sustainability.
The Nigerian Communications Commission, NCC, has reiterated the importance of the telecom consumer. The emphasis came during the NCC's day at the just concluded Lagos International Trade Fair, which held at Tafawa Balewa Square, Lagos.
The Nigerian Communications Commission has reiterated the importance of Telecom Consumer in the telecom market. The emphasis came during the NCC's day at the ongoing Lagos International Trade Fair at the Tafawa Balewa Square, Lagos, organized by the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Speaking during his paper presentation at the fair, the Executive Vice Chairman of the Commission, Professor Umar Garba Dambata, represented by the Head Public Relations, Mr. Oko Aye, said the purpose of the trade fair is to provide a platform for the Commission to interact with consumers who deserves to get value for their money.
As the independent telecom regulator in Nigeria, we recognize that the consumers of telecom services deserve to get value for their money and be treated as very important stakeholder in the scheme of things as far as service delivery is concerned.
Also in a stand-up interview with Telecom Today, the EVC said the fair gives an opportunity to bring operators and interface with consumers towards helping them solve their problems and look towards improving the sector.
In programs like this, we create an opportunity to interface with consumers and then bring operators to also see them, to speak to them and talk about the problems of the industry, what we are doing right and what we are doing wrong, and not to improve the entire sector.
The Director, Consumer Affairs Bureau, Mrs. Felicia Onwegbuchilam, stated that the fair provides an opportunity to present NCC's activities towards improving consumers' quality of experience.
Our participation also affords us the opportunity to present NCC's activities directed at improving customers' quality of experience in telecom service delivery.
The President of Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Mr. Babatunde Ruwase, elogied the effort of the Commission for always using the fair to reach out to the public and create awareness. He also acknowledged NCC as the only regulatory body that organizes town hall meeting.
We have adopted the rider connecting business, creating value, to drive the annual Lagos International Trade Fair beginning from this year. So from now, we will be connecting business, creating value. That has been adopted for now as the theme of the trade fair year in, year out.
The event was full of excitement as phones were given out to lucky winners through a raffle draw. The Commission also received a plaque from the Lagos State Chamber of Commerce and Industry in recognition of its efforts as a leading regulator in the country. The President of LCCI paid a visit to the NCC's pavilion and signed the register.
Thank you for being there on our program, Telecom Today. The telecom regulator, NCC, has again tasked subscribers on the protection of telecom facilities.
Consumers of telecom products and services in the country have been urged to regard themselves as major stakeholders in the protection of telecom facilities in their domains. The advice was given at the sensitization program on the protection of telecom infrastructure held in Minna, Niger State capital, by the head Zonal Operations, Nigerian Communications Commission, Ms. Helen Obi. Ms. Obi, who stood in for the Executive Vice Chairman of the Commission, Professor Umar Garba Dambata, appealed to consumers to regard the protection of telecom facilities as an obligation at all times.
It is instructive to note that the advent of GSM has re-engineered our economy and social well-being. However, there are sometimes challenges pervading the seamless provision of telecommunication services in the country, arising from some misconceptions and misguided facts about the key telecom infrastructure such as base stations, etc. More so, these facilities have been targets of vandalism, theft, and hostility in some host communities. It is therefore imperative for the public to regard telecom facilities as collectively owned infrastructure that are crucial and essential for the provision of efficient and acceptable quality of service and ought to be keenly protected.
Dr. Lawal Bello, Manager Technical Standards and Network Integrity, NCC, also spoke at the event where he presented these statistics to elaborate why all hands must be on deck as it concerns the protection of infrastructure in the country.
Nigeria needs about 80,000 base stations. These base stations you are seeing around you. Therefore, in Nigeria, we need around 80,000 base stations to be able to provide optimum service to the growing telecom consumers. There are currently 50,000 BTS spread across the country. This leaves the country with a deficit of 30,000 base stations. Despite this inadequacy, these 50,000 base stations still threatening with different security threats on deployment of fiber cable for broadband access. The country currently has about 38,000 kilometers of fiber deployed all over the country.
Among other participants that made contributions at the workshop was the State Commandant, Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps, NCC, Niger State, Philip Ayuba, represented by the Assistant Corps Commander, Musa Mohammed, who stressed the role of the Corps in protection of such critical national assets.
The security of this country is on everyone now. It's more than the security agencies. So we need to be blended, where our doors are always open. Anywhere you see us, we are ready at your service.
Hajia Asma Obaba was one of the participants that spoke with Telecom today after the event to share her impression of the sensitization workshop.
As a layperson, sometimes we now know the reasons why we have call drops, we have poor service. At least the NCC, they were able to let us know that sometimes due to vandalization and theft of communication gadgets.
The NCC organized sensitization program, which was attended by several industry stakeholders, is aimed at sensitizing telecom consumers on the importance of protecting telecom facilities located in their communities.
All 774 local government areas in Nigeria are soon to benefit from the broadband expansion program to be undertaken by NCC. Details of these and other stories when we return from this short break. Please don't go away.
Are you tired of receiving unsolicited messages? The Nigerian Communications Commission has introduced a Do Not Disturb code 2442. If you want to stop all unsolicited text messages, simply send STOP to 2442 and all the messages will stop. If you want to avoid some particular type of messages, send help to 2442 and it will show you different options to choose. You can select an option and send to 2442 for your preferred message. Code 2442 is same in all the networks and it is free. Where your network operator fails to stop these text messages, call them to complain, and if they still continue, call NCC on 622. We are poised to help you to stop unsolicited messages. NCC, connecting Nigeria.
Thanks for staying tuned. This is now the News of the Week segment. The 2018 E-Nigeria International Conference and Exhibition, organized by the National Information Technology Development Agency, NITDA, held in Abuja, the nation's capital. The Nigerian Communications Commission, NCC, used the opportunity to tell the ICT community that all 774 local government areas in the country are to benefit from broadband deployment.
In 2013, the Presidential Committee on Broadband developed a 5-year strategy to drive internet and broadband penetration and scale up the nation's broadband growth by 30% in 2018. The vision behind the Nigeria Broadband Plan seeks to accelerate high-speed internet and mass broadband access. As at the 2018 E-Nigeria International Conference and Exhibition, organized by the National Information Technology Development Agency, NITDA, in Abuja, where the theme centered on promoting digital economy in an era of disruptive technologies through effective regulations. Nigeria's President Muhammadu Buhari said information and communication technology has contributed immensely to the nation's gross domestic product (GDP), while attesting in particular the development it has brought in the last 3 years.
This administration's commitment towards delivering good governance and development of our people is as strong as ever, considering the huge role ICT is playing in the successes recorded in the past 3.5 years. The sector's contribution of about 10% of the nation's gross domestic product. I am pleased to note that this has been taken seriously and stakeholders' efforts resulted in ICT emerging as one of the key performers of the second quarter of 2018, recording 11.18% growth.
In his speech, the Executive Vice Chairman of NCC, Professor Garba Umar Ambata, spoke on what the Commission is doing to further promote broadband penetration in Nigeria, as well as infrastructure rollout to the served and underserved communities in the country. The EVC also spoke on digital transformation through deployment of infrastructure.
There is need to put in place deliberate action plans that will address this deficit in infrastructure, consistent with what we call an open access model. Beyond the deployment, this broadband infrastructure is supposed to have a point of access in every local government area in the country. So the deployment will extend to the 774 local government of the country. So you can see, ladies and gentlemen, that in readiness to ensure deployment of the necessary infrastructure in the country, we are all good to go.
On the contribution of the telecom regulator to the economy, the NCC boss had this to say.
So the figure for the telecom sector stands at 11.3%. In monetary terms, this will translate to between 4 to 5 billion naira per quarter every 3 months. That will be the contribution of the telecommunication sector to the GDP, because I regulate the telecom sector. I'm interested in what the contributions of the sector is to the economy.
Next on our program is the consumer segment. What is the best age to get your child a cell phone?
On our last episode of Telecom Today, we spoke to parents and guardians on what age they think children can use or access the mobile phone. On today's episode, we're going to be speaking with a teacher and educationist who says some conditions call for the use of mobile phones by children, amongst other things. Let's hear them.
I think that giving a child a phone, particularly these phones of recent times that have access to internet, is really very risky at a certain age. A child between the age of 11 and maybe 16 having access to the internet is a dangerous trend. The internet contains the good, the bad, and the ugly. And the children at their age, curiosity will drive them into going to look into the ugly side of it. And from there, they learn a lot, which might, at the end of the day, spoil their lives. So, as an educationist, I believe that such children should be protected, and giving them such access to internet, unlimited access to the internet, is dangerous. So a child matures at about 18 years and above.
Every legal thing is 18 years. So it depends on what the child, if it is just for making a call, like most parents will say, for protection, I want to be sure my child is fine. That's okay, but the issue is when the child gets online, so that's where our concern is.
You communicate with your child, either that child is in school and you are at home, or in your office you want to monitor the child, that's when you want to communicate. Or the child is at home and you are in the office, you want to know what's happening. Now, if the child is at home, maybe the best bet is if you have these landlines that are wireless, you can install in the house. You call the house, the child will pick, and you ask questions, and then the child can get to you if there is need. At very worst, you can buy these phones that are not internet enabled and drop at home.
Recall on previous episode of Telecom Today, parents and guardians gave diverse opinions on what age they think their children can use cell phones. So having heard from the teacher and the educationist, it lies on parents to choose what age they think is best for their children to use a cell phone. Atinuke Tokura, Telecom Today.
Do you know that any willful attempt to perpetrate an offense in the Cybercrime Act attracts up to 1 to 3 million naira as fine and or 1 to 25 years imprisonment, depending on the gravity of the offense? So stay out of trouble, avoid cybercrime. And with that, we wrap up this week's edition of the program Telecom Today. Well, we will be back same time next week with another resounding episode. Before I go, please remember to send us your feedback and comments through the NCC website, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Remember that you can always call our toll-free customer care line 622 for any service complaint. Thank you for being dependable partners. Telecom Today is powered by NCC. Till I come your way again, I am Eunice Johnson saying bye for now.